So, the second part of this training is to understand the roles and responsibilities of being a course rep. So, course reps. What do you do? Well, in order to get your course rep certificate and acknowledgement on your HERE, which is your Higher Education Achievement Record, you must speak to your students. Obviously, as a course representative, you're there to represent people's views, so in order to represent them effectively, you have to speak to your students. So that we can give you your course rep certificate, we ask for a bit of proof of this, so maybe a screenshot from a Facebook or Twitter conversation, or just proof of your notebook that's had some of the ideas jotted down into. We also ask that you attend at least 3 meetings. This is just so that you do your job effectively and you can make a difference at DMU. It's really important you do attend at least 3 meetings, but feel free to attend as many as you're invited to. We also ask that you report back to DSU. This is so we can keep a record of what's going on, and so that we know you're attending your meetings, but also it helps us to build a good level of knowledge of what's going on across the university and some of the issues students are facing. You can do this online, but we'll talk about this more later. We also ask that you complete an end-of-year report. This is just a 500-word reflective piece that you submit online. It's just to make sure that you feel comfortable in what you've done and you're aware of some of the key changes you've made. It'll also help you reflect on some of the skills and experiences you've had. If you complete all those, at the end of the year you'll become a fully accredited course rep and you'll have a certificate and proof of your time. So, firstly, we ask that you attend meetings. There's 3 types of meeting you can attend. There's the SSCCs, the Student Staff Consultative Committees, the PMBs, the Programme Management Boards, and the Better University Forums. We've already discussed all these, so we won't go into too much detail about them now, but make sure you attend as many of these as possible. They're really interesting and it's your main way to make changes happen. When you're in these meetings, it's always brilliant to remember the ABCD of effective feedback. The first one being accurate. Always make sure your feedback is accurate. If it's not, it won't last long, and people will soon start seeing holes in it. Make sure that your feedback represents the group you're representing. Make sure your feedback's balanced. That way, you're not there to cause arguments and raise negative points. It's always good to have a balanced argument and a balanced view on things. As a representative, you might have to represent 2 different viewpoints at times. Make sure it's constructive. Always take ideas as well as problems to the table. It's brilliant when you can have a problem and you can solve it there, but if you've thought about it beforehand, you can really make the meeting a lot more constructive and a lot more productive. Always make sure that your feedback is depersonalised. You are there as a representative, and it's fine if you are having problems as well, but make sure they're shared by the class before you raise them. Otherwise, you'll start losing the support of your classmates and the academics you're speaking to. If you remember those 4 things, you won't go far wrong in a meeting. Collecting student opinion. This can be either the hardest or the easiest part of your job, but let's give you some ways that you can do it. First off, I'd recommend that you introduce yourself. If you stand up at the front of the class and just say, "Hi," and then your name, and explain to them what your role is as a course rep, at least then they'll know who you are and it won't rely on you speaking to them all the time. They'll be able to come and tell you anything they want to talk to you about. Be approachable. If you open yourself up and get to lectures sort of 5 minutes early, you can give yourself a chance to settle down and also speak to students who are there. If you tell people you'll be there early for lectures, there's chances they'll come down beforehand as well and give the opportunity to speak to you. Always be friendly. This is just good advice for life really, but if you're friendly, people will be much happier to speak with you and work with you. Some ways you can gather student opinion is using social media. We've had students who've set up Twitter accounts using hashtags and asked students just to tweet in any complaints or any ideas they've had. You can also use things such as Facebook, setting up Facebook groups to talk to your class. All of these ways can be really easy just to make sure that you gather student opinion. If you fancy being a bit old school, why not use a post-it note? Just stick some on the desks and ask people to fill out a question of them. That way you can collect them up at the end of the lecture and you've got all your student feedback for the day. It's a brilliant quick way. Or just write down a question and pass around a notebook. These are just some ideas. But remember, be as creative as you want. Create web blogs, video blogs, anything you like. Just ways to feeding back to your students, telling them what you're up to, and getting their ideas back from you. The key thing to remember though is that you need to involve everyone. Not everybody will use Facebook, not everybody will like emails. So it's really crucial that you use loads of different methods to contact your students. That way you gather everybody's feedback and nobody feels left out. When it comes to feeding back to the class, make sure you feedback everything, not just some of the key wins. Obviously, if you've got loads of key wins, shout them from the rooftops. I'm sure people would love to hear them. But make sure you also tell what hasn't worked so well and what's still going on. That way people understand what's being fixed and what you're working on. It builds a really good relationship with you and your course, but it also helps to understand the feedback system and what's going on their course. Report back to DSU. As I mentioned earlier, we ask that you report back after each of your meetings. It's really easy to do. All you need to do is fill out a course rep meeting report. You can find this on the De Montfort student website. It's got a big green box around it. You can't miss it. It only takes 2 minutes, but it can make a real difference into finding out what's going on for students. Problem solving. This just means that you don't just take problems to meeting, you also bring solutions. So a good example of this is, if you say, the book I need from the library is never available, somebody could say back to you, you should buy it yourself. And that's kind of the end of the conversation, and it isn't much use. However, if you say to them that DMU should maybe invest in e-book technology so that books are available at any time and anywhere, you'll start to get a much more open response. Maybe something like, that's an interesting idea. Will you help us implement a system? Could you find some more information out for us? That way you've brought a problem, but you've also brought a solution, and you can't really argue with that. The key thing to remember though is that you are a representative. You are there to represent a group of students. So, before you do anything, just think, does this represent the view of a group of students? If it does, then that's great. You're on the right lines and you're being a course representative. You're doing everything right. If no, then all you need to do is go back to your students and start again. Because something's gone wrong somewhere, and if you don't feel you're representing a group of students, then you need to start again and find out what will help you. So, ultimately, what we're saying is, if you go in there with a personal agenda and want to sort of bring negative points to the table all the time, things like you don't like your lecturer, your timetable is stopping you doing things, and you keep failing your coursework, and you're just angry, that's not the way to be a course rep. You won't see change, your course won't support you, and the lecturers won't have time to listen to you. If you take these frustrations though and find out if they're shared, and if your class agrees with them, then you'll be well on your way to making huge changes for your course. So, whatever you're thinking, just think, I'll do a quick survey to see how people are finding that topic, and we'll see what goes from there. If you take that to your meetings, lecturers will be really happy to work with you through that, because they'll see it's a real issue and you're really passionate about it. That is the best way to be a course rep. Hopefully, that gives you a good understanding of the roles and responsibilities of being a course rep. If not, just let us know and we can talk through some more with you.